Today, I'm talking with Marilyn. We are going to talk about how she used the book to help her get through some personal challenges because when she wrote me and told me how it's helped her, it was very moving. And I wanted to share her specific way of employing it in her life and how it helped her to help give people an idea of how they might be able to use it as well. So thanks for joining me, Marilyn. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome, and I'm happy to be here. And I hope that something does resonate with someone because that's what happened to me basically with your book. A lot of the techniques, say for instance, the Nautilus, um, people could may have heard in other words like tuck your pelvis, which is not exactly the same thing, but
I want
they
to
may
make
have
sure it's not
heard
tuck
that.
and
And
pelvis. Yeah.
it's just when someone says something a certain way, it resonates. And there were several things. I had always all my life thought about being a marionette and imagining, and even in meditation, imagining the string holding through the seven chakras and trying to align that. But unless someone's working with you or you're really good at checking in a mirror or sensing your body in space, you could think your string is straight and it might not be.
Mm.
And so the three keys were something that allowed me to see that same kind of action in a different way.
What was different about the three keys than the alignment from a string? Because that string metaphor is a really common one in dance and anything to do with posture. So what was different for
Well,
you?
I think one of the things was what I was specifically looking for when I found your book was I was having a lot of pain in my neck and shoulders, and I have an old 1980s shoulder injury, but this was pretty extreme and it lasted for a little over a year. And so the head key was the one that I was the most excited about. And
Mhm.
I think what was different from the string was I was actually putting my full attention at those three spaces one at a time
Mhm.
rather than this ethereal all at once kind of a feeling. So I think that was one thing, was the fact that they were isolated areas where you could really pay attention to. And because I was having so much pain in my neck, I just wanted that to go away. And I found that the sensing posture using those three keys, see the shin ankles too. Who thinks of your shin ankles?
Nobody.
And no, and I would I was putting all of my attention there
Mhm.
and in my ankles and then up forward. And when you say place your weight there, I don't know, am I really doing that or not? But and I wasn't sure. And I actually practiced each of the three keys separately for a long time to see if I could really identify and know that I was putting my weight in my shin ankles. But my favorite is pretend you're about to sit down, but don't move.
Mhm.
That explanation, it was those words just did resonate with me. And even now, so particularly when I'm standing at the sink, washing
Mhm.
dishes, brushing my teeth, standing at the sink, we do a lot of
Yes,
that.
a lot. Yes.
And that
Popping.
immediately I feel out of balance, out of alignment. And I just think the three keys, I start at the ground and work my way up. And it's true, I can last a lot long. I rest. I'm happy. I'm strong and yet relaxed. And that's really hard to be.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah. The specificity of that rather than one global idea or imagery is what is powerful about that. You
I
can
think it
go
was
to
for
each
me.
one specifically, and then you can really go into the detail of it. But then when you bring them together, you're working with the whole fascial webbing at once. You're kind of balancing out the big weight centers in your body in a way that's really powerful.
Yeah, and that was something also that resonated with me, was the idea of working with the fascia, because I hadn't really heard that before and wanted to do that because I had stage 4 endometrial cancer. I was diagnosed shortly after I had read your book the first time. And so it also helped me regain my strength after a radical hysterectomy.
Mm,
And so that was a very, very debilitating surgery,
yeah.
but they got all of the cancer. And I felt the surgery was much worse than the chemo. for my particular experience. And even though the chemo would knock me down, but the surgery was really debilitating. And having those three things already in my wheelhouse as I started to gain my strength back allowed me to go up the stairs, I'm sure, a lot quicker. And everybody, all my doctors, my entire medical team said, "Oh, you're doing great, and you've come faster and done better than most people." And I mean, everybody said, "Oh, you have such a great attitude." And I know that has a lot to do with it, but I also felt like I'm supported and I have a lot of tools. And the tools from your book were some of the tools that I carried with me.
Yeah.
Elastic breathing too, because I had a fusion into my pleural cavity. In fact, that's how I found out I had cancer, was I couldn't breathe. I thought I had pneumonia. I went to the hospital thinking they were giving me antibiotics and I'm coming back home. And they were like, "Nope,
Oh,
you
wow.
shouldn't be walking." So that elastic breathing, which also, like, I'd done 3-part breathing in yoga, which, chest, solar plexus, and then your lower belly. But the idea of stretching upwards and the elongation with one arm and then the other. And I mean, once I start, I have to do the whole series of exercise because it feels good.
Oh, great. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Yay.
Brings
Yay.
me back to myself.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Brings you back to yourself.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Then you had to return to the hospital.
I did.
That and
And you're speaking of the tumor going, or the cancer getting into my brain.
yeah, yeah.
And November 1st, a year ago, I had written in my journal, "There is something wrong in my skull, in my head, in my neck. It is not normal. It is not a headache." When I went to the doctor, or my regular physician, not the cancer doctor, but just my primary care physician, she said, "Oh, it's postural. Everybody has that. Bring your head back. We'll send you to PT." And I tried, and I thought, I already have the Coherent Body tools, so I don't know what PT is going to be able to do for me. And they gave me a few exercises, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't the right thing for me, and I was still frustrated, and things didn't get better. And what happened was I crashed my car, just a fender bender kind of, but a couple of times in a week. So I went to my eye doctor and said, "I think there's something wrong with my eyes." And he tested and said, "No, I'm sorry. You probably had a stroke or you have a tumor." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "How can you be so chipper?" And I said, "Well, because I've already been through this and that makes sense. And I just want an answer."
Yes.
And so I'm wondering how much pain I would have been in if I hadn't been practicing those postures all along for that entire year, because I think the tumor was growing, and it actually said my brain was 4 millimeters off center. So
Mm.
no wonder there was pulling in the fascia
Wow.
and all of this. I guess you could say I was coping, but I actually was thriving. I mean, except for losing my peripheral vision when the tumor got into a part of my brain where it was causing an outward symptom. I mean, it was causing an outward symptom, but no one would jump to cancer in the brain to take a picture of that area. So we didn't know until I crashed my car. I was thriving. I was a year cancer free. And then 2 days later, oh, sorry, back in the hospital. But I think your tools helped me be that vibrant. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
So now I do a lot of walking. And in fact, I built my stamina back up. I live in a very mountainous, in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
Yeah, and going uphill is a really good time to look for that because you could really feel the shin ankle because of the angle.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good clue too, that if people want to really feel what that is, just get yourself on an incline. And yeah, that's good.
Or alternatively, like lowering yourself on stairs is where you'll really feel your shin ankle as well.
Oh.
I'll send you a recording of a workshop where we did the 3 keys in daily life. Get some cues on how to weave it in. So it's not exercises you do on the side. It's actually,
like standing at the kitchen sink. Yeah.
Exactly. When you find those moments, it becomes something else. Instead of an exercise, it just becomes the way you do something. And that's what we want to do. Like,
it is a way of life, sort of. I mean, it's a way of being.
Yeah.
It's a way, and I found myself really slowing down in my everyday life to pay full attention. And then I thought, oh, but I haven't looked at that book for about 5 months now because I have internalized a lot of it, right?
Yes,
It is
yes.
part of my life, but always good to go back.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
I
then,
will be doing that now.
yeah, when you go back, you're coming at it from a different angle too, from your body state is different. So
Mhm.
you'll pick up different emphasis, some
Yeah,
things will pop up. And I said it in the book because that's how it happens. Like
yeah.
you go through a layer and then a deeper layer. And I say that when you come back to it 6 months later and read it through, it's going to a little bit different because you're going to read it differently. People say, how did I miss that the first time around? It happens.
I'm
That's
looking
like,
forward to that. And I think I need to, you're right, my body's in a new state now. And so I need to think about what can I discover in the current state that I'm in.
that's fantastic. So let's say you're talking to an audience of people who have the book. And what would you say to them in terms of how you went through the book? I mean, are you someone who just kind of read the book? Did you get the book emailed to you? Or, how did you make your way through the book?
Okay. So I got the e-version
Mhm.
and I really liked that. And I spent a lot of time with the videos. That really helped me. I have always kind of thought of myself as a kinesthetic learner, but I think that this reading the text and watching the video and then actually doing the actions or doing the actions while you were doing the video, that allowed me to internalize it. But I also think that something that I was doing was what I just alluded to, and that is slowing down. I wanted results fast, but I also wanted to make sure I was really understanding what I was reading and that I was doing it correctly. When I first got it, I thought, this isn't going to work. I want Sue. I want to go where she is and I want her to touch me and make sure that things are in alignment. And then I felt my feet suction to the floor and I thought, okay, wait, I can't. So 10,000 hours, you just have to kind of do it again and again and go slow enough to understand and to wait, to be patient with yourself, to because it will click. And you may not do it right 14 times, but the 15th time you'll feel it, and then you'll get that, then you get the incentive to keep going
Oh,
because something
great,
clicked.
great. Oh, that's exciting because that is exactly why I started with the 3 keys. That was one of my first things that I offered because it gave a real immediate and palpable experience of a difference and a change with the simple technique. And then I wanted to feel people to feel it in their body first.
Yeah.
And then I wrote the book because I could tell that people needed a little bit more context to hold that together, to understand why the changes were happening, to understand how to apply the changes. But what you said about saying like, I can't do this, I need Sue, and what you found your way to was, I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for someone else to externally change your internal alignment can be powerful, but in some ways it can ultimately be disempowering if you don't eventually learn how to do that on your own.
Yes.
And
I had a chiropractor that I was very excited to go work with, but he didn't want me to ask any questions.
mhm.
And so he wanted me to be dependent on him. And I said, now I'm an active partner in this relationship. So I'm ending it now. And that's true. I think it unfortunately true of a lot of practitioners that they derive meaning from being the driver of your change, but I'm an active participant,
Yeah,
even as a patient in a hospital. I want to be in on it. Don't you want to know how it feels in my body?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
I was a
exactly.
special ed teacher for 25 years, and my master's thesis was about a different kind of IEP meeting where all the members, including the student, are equally valued.
Great.
And that's what I wanted in my medical team. And even though I was reading your book and watching your videos, I got that value. I was valued because I was the driver of my change, but it did take time. So I think that I had to give myself a lot of grace, which
Yeah.
is something this whole experience has taught me. Give
Oh,
yourself a
yeah.
lot of grace.
That's
Don't be so hard on yourself.
yes, yes, yes. Yes, that is, then that's the whole point of resourcing yourself.
Yes.
That if
And
you,
it's interesting too, because you talk a lot about emotional trauma or psychological trauma and historical trauma. And I'm pretty cynical, skeptical slash cynical about that kind of stuff. And I wanted something concrete and physical, and you snuck in because I got the concrete and physical from you. And then I realized I was getting a lot of emotional and psychological support as well. And so thank you for that. It was very good to be able to start with the body and then realize, oh, there are emotional and psychological effects to this too.
wow,
Yeah.
wow, that's terrific. It's really the best I could hope for, to give people real, powerful, real physical changes that they can continue to evolve on their own and have it link into that emotional piece, because it is, they talk about disease being 80% of it being stress. They there's so little things addressing stress. Like, they'll list all the herbs you can take, all the medications you could take, all the exercises you could take. They go through this long laundry list of all the things you could do. And for that 80%, they say, oh, and manage your stress. And they say, oh, meditate or do yoga. I mean, they just kind of like leave it like that. There's no specific, concrete way to address that. And, it's to me, the long-term stress and the thing that really emerges out of a body when they're in crisis is the capacity to handle the emotions,
Yeah.
when it comes
Yeah.
up. And that's not the time to learn it,
Yeah.
you know?
That's right. And I was really grateful that I had your book ahead of time before I got diagnosed so that I had a couple of tools under my belt. But at the same time, it carried me all the way through. And the second time around, I was a different person. First of all, brain surgery is nothing like abdominal surgery. It's much less painful and there's very little side effects. The doctor told me, you can start dancing again whenever you're ready. And I'm like, you don't know me. I'll be ready tomorrow. You better be careful what you say.
Was
But
it that quick, the recovery?
it was a quick recovery. I mean, it's
Wow.
been September 12th, so it's been 6 weeks or 7 weeks since the surgery, and less than that from the radiation. But I have tools,
Yeah.
and I practice, and they're a part of my life. I have lifestyle now. It's not even tools now, it's just lifestyle. And
Oh,
people
yes.
say that too. People say manage your stress as a lifestyle, and you're like, but my stress is my lifestyle, and it's I can't make it go away, and I don't have time. And so, I like the fact that you're recognizing and acknowledging and teaching that these things can happen in your everyday life. You can do these stress management things because, the elongation and then the elastic breath, just do those. It's not very long, and do it while you're right after you brush your teeth or right before you brush your teeth or while you're making your cup of coffee and you're waiting for it to brew, right?
Yes, yes.